Hey guys, Tepcocyclerepair. Today working on a Honda VT1800 and we're doing fork seals. Look at these things. They're a mess. So let's get them off. First thing I'm going to do is take the wheel off, the fender off, and then we're going to take the forks apart. So let's start with the wheel. Now this has a big fender on it, but don't worry about it. All this stuff is, you just got to take a couple more things off, but having all this stuff on here is no big deal. I have it on a heavy duty lift for cruisers like this. It helps out. The frame is flat. It just picks it up off the ground. Makes it easier. I wish it was on my big lift as well, but I got another bike on there. I'm waiting for parts. So here we are. All right, guys, a quick tip on this fender. If you're going to be doing just your fork seals, just go ahead and take the two Allens right here. You got one here, one here. You can take your 8mm off, your caliper off. Take your triple clamps, and if you have any accessories like this off, pull this leg out, and then go on the other side and do the same thing. Just take the two out on the other side, and then the one up here, and then take the whole fender off this way, and leave that fork leg in, and then do that fork leg, throw that fork leg back in, and then put the fender in the opposite way. I'm going to take mine completely apart because there's all kinds of fork oil inside it, underneath it. I got to clean it all up. But that's how I would do it. It makes it a whole lot easier. So this is the same thing it has as far as a sliding type of axle. All right, so on a lot of dirt bikes, they have these as well. These have caps. I'm going to pull these caps off here, but we'll have two bolts here that pinch this section here of the axle. So on this side here, we have our nut that we need to take off. The nut goes into the center of the axle. Axle slides through the other side. These are the pinch bolts for this side. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and loosen this up right here. We're going to take the nut off of here, and then we're going to come over here to this side. We'll loosen these two in the bottom, and then we'll knock the axle out that way. Also, I don't remember if the wheel fits through the two calipers without taking the caliper off, so I'm going to take one of the calipers off anyway. So I'll just take this one off here with these two 12mm, and we'll take those off and get this caliper out of the way. All right, so we're out. I'm going to jack it up a little bit more to get it out of here and just roll it out. I mean, look how bad that is. I don't think he had any brakes. All right, so at this point here with the wheel off, we're going to start taking off the clamps and stuff for the windshield, but we're just going to loosen them on this side here, and then we're going to also loosen up this Allen right here so we can loosen the top cap. You're going to want to do that while it's in the bike so you don't have to hold it in place. It's very hard to turn when it's outside of the bike. You just try and hold it. So we're going to loosen these two right here, this one right here, and then we're going to loosen the top cap. Now I'm going to leave the windshield on the other side, so this I don't have to worry about taking it down, and then I'll do one leg at a time. And then after I get all that done here, I'll go ahead and loosen this bottom one up and slide the leg out. Also, make sure you measure and see how far it's protruding out of the top triple so you can put it back the same way. All right, so with everything loose here, I'm just going to grab it. I got all these loose. I got the clamps loose here. We're just going to twist a little bit. It's going to come right out. All right, there we go. That's what we're looking at. All right, so now we have the fork out. I'm going to clean this bottom one up before I do anything else. You can see it's just so messy. It's crazy. All right, so with the forks off the bike, I unscrewed this all the way. We're going to unscrew it. All right, and then I'm going to dump all the fluid out. We're going to get as much fluid as we can out of it so it's just less messier when we take it apart. So when you make sure you're moving it up and down and stuff when you're dumping the fluid out, I'm just going to pour it right at the top here into a catch can. All right, so with the fork flipped over here, we're going to get this dust seal off right here. And then underneath that is a clip, and then our actual seals underneath there. So I want you guys guess in the comments what kind of seals these are that are leaking all over the place. I bet some of you guys have done this, can tell. All right, so with the dust seal off, you can see the clip underneath there. All right, that clip right there, we got to get that little curve right there. We're going to pull that clip up. All right, just a spring clip. Just watch your fork stanchion tube when you're doing all this stuff. You don't want to scratch it up. Okay, so there's that. But at this point here, we're going to move back up to the top again because now we have this clip out right here. This is the point you're at when you can just slide hammer it apart, but you have to take the top off. So, and we're going to take that lock nut off of the top and loosen the top cap so it will come apart. And then we'll just slide hammer this thing apart. And if you're concerned about your seal, you can warm it up here a little bit with a heat gun and get that nice and warm. That'll help the seal come out, but this one should come out pretty easily. All right, so with a wrench at the top, holding the top cap, I took a 14 and I cracked the lock nut here loose. You want to try to leave that where it is. You don't want to move that. Now the top one's just going to spin off. So I'll be able to just spin the top all the way off and then slide hammer the two upper and lowers apart. Okay, let me get this off. All right, so this is what it looks like. I just slipped all the way apart. I haven't started slide hammering yet, but the whole thing is going to come all the way out. You can see how long it is here. I got this thing slid all the way out. Now I'm just going to pull the two of them apart, and it'll knock the seals out. All right, and they came out super easy. Two nice, easy taps, and they came right out. So you guys guess what seals these are yet? All right, another hint of which ones these are. All right, here's a bushing here. In the factory Honda OEM setup, you have your dust seal at the bottom. You have your retention clip right here. You don't have this metal ring. And then you have your actual oil seal, and then you have a metal ring. So there's an extra metal ring in here. Okay, that's your hint what kind these are. All right, so let's continue stripping this down. What we're going to do here is just put a screwdriver in that little slit right there, and we're just going to open it up a little bit and slide that one off. Keep these in order because they go on when you're putting them back together. If you have a whole kit, replace these as well. This bike doesn't have a lot of miles on it; they're not too worn. We do the same thing here. This one will just slide off. You don't have to separate it at all. And then let's get all these seals up out of here. Now I have a box here. I'm going to be laying them down in order. So make sure when you do it the same way so you know how they go back in if this is your first time. All right, so I'm going to let everything drain out of here as much as it can, because when we're putting this in, we're going to be putting it back in the fluid by cc's instead of measuring. So we're just going to go ahead and let everything out because we're not fully disassembling these. There's a tool that goes in the inside and you can fully disassemble them, but we're just going to let everything drain out fully. I'm going to go inside, have dinner, come out, should be drained by then. We'll flip it over and put it back on. All right, so with everything drained out good here, you can use a seal saver if you have one that goes down over all this, but basically these sharp edges right here. All right, so you got them right here, you got them right here. You don't have to worry about these because you're coming off of these when you slide it down. All right, and then you got the two bleed holes right here. I taped those up also, you can see it right there. All right, so I'm going to cover those up. I'm going to put some fork oil on here, and then some of the fork oil that we're going to be putting in, we're using 10 weight for this, Maxima. Going to put some on there and start sliding everything on. Here's the new seals, and then the metal ring in there, and then the two bushings. All right, so the dust seal on, and now we got our oil seal. This has two sides. You want the letters, all right, the letters right here, you can see little numbers and stuff, facing downward, okay? They're facing out. So this bigger gap right here is what you want facing upward. That's where the oil is going to sit inside of there. You want this part here with the smaller groove in there, and the numbers, letters, you want those facing out and away. So that's going to go on. All right, so here's our numbers and letters down this way. All right, it's going to go on like this. That's how this one's going to go on. All right, so here, we have our dust seal, then a retainer clip, our oil seal, the metal ring. We have our bushing for the outer. Now the bushing's got to go on here, so we're going to pull the tape off now and slide the last bushing onto there. All right, so with that inner tube ready to go, I have the outer one here. I've cleaned it. I put a little bit of fork oil in here just to help everything slide together, and we're going to slide it back in. Now I don't have the exact size fork seal driver, but we're going to make them work. I'll show you. All right, so I'm using this one here. Like I said, it's the wrong size. You can see that there. So I'm just putting it in here. Just make sure you push it down evenly. And when you first get it down in there with that metal ring in there, make sure you take the metal ring and push the bushing into place, and then this will slide in fairly easy. And all I'm doing is just pushing it down, rotating it, making sure it's going down easy. And you can see it's all the way down. The ring clip groove is visible now, so I'll make sure it's all the way down and then put that clip back on it. All right, so you can see the clip back in there in place where it needs to be. Now I'm going to push the dust seal back down and just push that one into place. You can usually do that just by hand, just tapping it on the edges. All right, so with the dust seal back in place, looking good. I was able to use these that were too big to get that in. We're able to use them like normal and just slide and knock that in. That seal was a little bit tough to get in, tougher than I thought. Sometimes you can push them in by hand, but I had to use a tool for that. So just be careful, make sure it goes in straight. So I put the top cap back on here, and I kept this distance the same, how far it was screwed on. Put the lock nut back on it, and now I'm going to fill it with fluid. Now the right side and the left side fork legs take different fluid levels. So the right side I'll show you is a little bit different when you're doing those. It's essentially the same when you're doing the fork seals, but the fluid is a little different. So let me give you the fluid amount here. All right, so this left side is 828 cc's or 28 ounces. So just pour it in there. Pour it in there slow, it'll bubble up. All right, so after you fill it, it's going to be bubbling and bleeding. Just move it up and down a couple times. Make sure you don't hear any more bubbles in there before you screw it back to the top. All right, one side done. Let's get the other one done. All right, so the main difference here is that the nut that we have to hold on to, and the other one was a 14, this is a 17, and it's a narrow 17, so you can't get a regular 17. I have a Craftsman 17 that I've already grounded down for another job, and similar deal here, so it fits right in there. But you're going to have to, if you have a regular Craftsman 17 or a higher end 17, they're usually going to be pretty fatter on the open end side of the combination, so you're going to have to grind it down to make it fit. But this fits in perfect. All right, so we'll drain this out and get this one open. All right, guys, so this one is done here. The only difference, this one takes 23.2 ounces, where the left side takes 28. Exactly the same millimeter lock nut at the top, and on this side has 14 millimeter lock nut at the top. So I got to do a bunch of other things to this bike. This was just part of it, but it's good to go, guys. Hopefully this helps you out. Get the fork fluid changed. It'll help the bike ride better, and it'll keep your internals of your forks working like they should. Hopefully this helps you out, guys. Please hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell for further notifications. Until next time, this is Tepcocyclerepair. Still got a lot of work to do on this bike.